Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the Council on Future Conflicts episode. What is it? 519? That's kind of small. We're talking Antifa triggered and Russian roulette today, amongst other things. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world, and some of it is like it's like this is indicators and warnings of things around the corner. Like the Cambodia thing, like the fishing, the China fishing vessels in multiple parts of the world causing friction. Anyway, so we're going to be getting into it. But of course, as always, I'm joined by Joe and Watcher. Joe, how you doing today?
I am both well and good. A very interesting battle with Charlie Bear last night. That is what we have dubbed him. As he was trying to get into the trash. I actually drove around there to put some trash in the dumpsters, and I look up and here's a bear not 15 feet away, like frozen, like that human can't see me. I'm a ninja. And then that led to us driving around on a side-by-side for a while, trying to drive him off and getting some good pictures. It was funny. I've decided that the black bear is no longer Ursus americanus. It is Ursus retardicus because they're just not that smart.
Yeah, I mean that tracks. What are you gonna do though? Bears they're gonna be bears, right?
Yeah, I really think my dog is bigger than this bear was. So,
well, I said it before the show, but I'll say it again. While sure bears are dangerous, inherently because they have big claws and they're stronger than you are. Like 9 times out of 10, it's like just interactions like a giant raccoon. They really want to get into your trash and they want to eat your garbage essentially. Because clearly there's something in there that smells way better.
I think that's true of black bears and brown bears, but Ursus horribilis is not afraid of anything. So the grizzly bear is an entirely different creature.
100%. But the good news is those are relatively rare compared to other types
of bears.
Except
for at Camp Ponderosa, they're not relatively rare, but yes.
Well, I'm saying in general, like in the bear range in America, they're probably the smallest number. They're also very territorial, so, and that's one of the reasons why they can be trouble. Hunt's a dirty roofer for $2 over at Rumble says, so Joe, how long before the wife adopts him, gives him a collar with Charlie, and tries to house train him? 3 weeks.
I think 3 weeks is long. Because last night she was like, you were going to scare him away. Yes, that's literally what I'm trying to do. Just leave him alone. I think you're right, Hunch. I think you're right.
You might, Joe, you might legitimately have to get some of those rock salt rounds for the shotgun.
I know. I told her when I went back out there last night to put some paving stones on top of the trash cans. I was like, listen, don't freak out if you hear a gunshot. I'm not actually shooting at the bear. I'm just going to shoot into the ground if I have to. So
yeah, I've heard the dog training rounds are pretty effective as well.
I said if you hear a whole bunch of shots in rapid succession, I did just shoot a bear.
right. Yeah. 1 shot is a warning. 5 shots is shoot to kill. Before Watcher, how you doing? I didn't say hello to you yet.
Oh, doing all right. Doing all right. Not an offer. Not saying to do this, but we did actually have somebody who was heading home from camp that broke down in my area that we're taking care of. So yeah, it's always good to see you guys when I can, although preferably not broken down on the freeway in my neck of the woods.
You need to make your travel way less adventurous, way less eventful.
Well, the other thing is if you break down in Watcher's neck of the woods, you're going to be able to eat as much fried chicken as you want.
I actually got barbecued chicken last night. So good stuff.
Yeah. You know, so I had a fried chicken here. It was a traditional fried chicken here in Korea, and basically, you know how like the chickens in the rest of the world, except for America, are about half the size of American, fried, chickens, right? Well, they took the chicken and imagine the body, and here's the breast, right? You basically you butterfly the whole thing. You lay it flat so its arms are out and its legs are down and the head's gone.
Yeah, called spatchcocking.
And you just do it as one big thing. It was shockingly good. These Korean chickens are really tasty, and I imagine it's kind of like what you were talking about. How there are certain meat birds that are that are maybe not as tasty, but they give you a lot of meat. But then there are the ones that are maybe a little smaller that meat just tastes really good.
Hell yeah. But yeah, we're stoked that he's here and he's taken care of. And like I said, it's good to see you guys when we can. Also, he can definitely attest that everything you're seeing about the farm is indeed real.
Gentlemen, before we dive into anything today, I want to try something. It's called spatchcock. Yeah, I honestly never encountered that style of cooking chicken until I came here to Korea. All right, so this is something I want to try with the chat here. Hey, Laura Cox.
Oh, whoa.
Long time no see. Laura Cox, member for 19 months. Thank you. Hey, guys, I haven't forgot about you all. Just been invested in the Karen Reed trial and have been working. I have no idea what the Karen Reed trial is all about. I am aware of it because I see it.
I've seen people talk about it, but I don't know what the actual trial is.
I see like Sean posting stuff about it from time to time, but I don't listen. I don't pay any attention to it, so I have no idea what it is. But yes, different strokes for different folks, and we appreciate you anytime you have to spend with us, Laura. We appreciate it. Guys, what I want to do is I asked you guys, and I mentioned in the chat, and I was hoping that, like I always give Joe a hard time about, sharing the link out. And he's already done that, so thank you very much, Joe. But what I would like to do, chat, is you guys share the link out today. Now, you can either do that
out already today, just so you know.
That's what I said. I know you. I see that you have already done it.
Yeah.
So I can't hector you about it. But what I want to do is hector the chat for 30 seconds here. If you guys were to just get up and you can tag me, you can tag Joe, you can tag Watcher, you can tag Future Conflict, whatever you want to do. If you're on X, that's the best place to do it because that's a very receptive audience. We have friends. Our little circles on there tend to be pretty engaged. So if you want to take the video link on X and share that out, or you want to take, if you're watching it on YouTube, just grab that link up in your browser or wherever you're watching and hit the share button and share it out on like one of your social media choices. The idea is that it's much more interesting if we can get people watching it live. I know there was a lot of people who watch it, after the fact, but I want to see if by engaging in this, we can get some more people in here. One of the things that I want to kind of like, I guess if I had a focus for the near future, I want to talk about domestic terror because that's one of these areas that, Joe, you and I, guys like us talk about it a lot. Because we see it. It's happening literally right in front of us. It's happening in Europe. It's happening, all in a lot of different places in the world. And it tends to be secular, left-wing, communist, neo-Marxist, type folks that are doing this. And we just got to get the word out. And that's one of the things that I think that if you guys can help me get that word out. Let's see. Karen Reed trial is a masterclass on how to get railroaded by a corrupt Massachusetts judicial system. Thank God the Democrats had their guns taken away. Well, I don't think anybody should have their guns taken away, but I understand the sentiment. Okay, gentlemen, let's get stuck in with this first story. Thai Cambodian soldiers exchange fire at disputed border area. Now, Watcher, I've got a map to go with this story and also a video clip. I couldn't find any other video clips, but this is like one of these developing things. I mean, this is only a couple hours old.
This is the year of the wars no one cares about, right?
Well, the irony is whether it's Rwandan rebels invading Congo or it's Cambodia and Thai coming to blows, so even a border, Joe, this is the destabilization wars that occur when the big powers are more focused on each other and aren't focused on any of these, like backwater areas. And these are those kind of small scale regional wars that you were talking about in like the way that World War III would develop. So let me hit this one real quick. Thai and Cambodian soldiers exchanged fire at a disputed border area on Wednesday, prompting the two sides to hold talks to end the standoff. Thailand accused Cambodian soldiers of entering the disputed area in violation of an agreement and firing at its soldiers when confronted. The Thai troops returned fire, but there were no injuries or casualties in the clashes that took place near the border area in Thailand's northeast Ubon province. Wintai Servia.
Try to figure that word out.
So yeah, I just skipped it. Wintai Savari, a spokesperson for the Thai army, said Cambodian army spokesperson told the Associated Press that the Cambodian troops were conducting a routine patrol along the border when the Thai side opened fire. Government spokesperson Pen Bona did not immediately respond to a Bloomberg request seeking details of the clash. I mean, so Joe, they shot first. No, the other side shot first. I mean, this is as old as the hills. I mean, literally.
Yeah, they shot first. Who shot first? Who's on second? No idea.
Right.
But I bet you they all used the AK-47, like this wonderful bottle I have in my hand that I got from good old Reverend Hazmat. So.
Good looking.
That is a toy that shoots white. That is not a real firearm. Just YouTube.
Yes, YouTube. This is a pellet gun
with the correctly marked orange tip on the end of it. If you just the tip, always orange.
Just the tip.
But yeah, this is Joe. This is exactly what I imagine. I mean, so yeah, are they coming to blows? Not really, but both sides are moving reinforcements to the area. Watch if you could bring the map up just so we can remind people where in the world Cambodia is. It's essentially between Vietnam and Thailand. If you're like me and you grew up on being a Vietnam history nerd, when it was still cool to read about Vietnam history, and I mean Vietnam War history, not like Vietnam history. Anyway, it's it's the southern bit there. The Mekong River goes through there, and yeah, it's a pretty poor country. Not much of a military, but it's enough of one to kill a lot of people. And so Thailand has it had up until recently. I think the Thai military has gone downhill in the last probably, let's call it 10 to 15 years, with all the kind of instability that they've had in that government. So I don't know that this is going to amount to much, but it's maybe an attempt at the salami slicing that China is so good at along the Indian border. Or it could just be, border friction. Joe, what do you think the likelihood that this is more than just like spooked young soldiers, that are a little too hot on the trigger?
There's a lot of ethnic hatred and dispute there. I think that probably plays more into it than anything else. it's one of those parts of the world where we all say Southeast Asians look like Southeast Asians, but Cambodians and Thais and Laotians and Vietnamese can identify each other at 10 paces, and they don't like each other very much, except for probably the Laotians and the Vietnamese. They have a long history of fighting, and I think it's just one more flashpoint in the world.
And if this was going on in Laos, I would say maybe there's a China kind of piece to this, like what we said with Myanmar. But ultimately, I think with Cambodia, it's much harder for China to be directly involved in Cambodian issues, if you will. Just because they don't share a direct border. That's not to say that China doesn't have a finger in this.
Cambodia has always been deeply involved. I mean, China's always been involved in Cambodia. For example, that's the reason why they launched their horribly failed punitive expedition into Vietnam, was because Vietnam removed the Chinese-installed Pol Pot and his regime, right? The Khmer
Right. Excuse me. Sorry.
China now has a base in Cambodia.
If I remember correctly, back then, though, China had a lot more direct input into Laos. Yeah,
100%. But they also have a naval base in Cambodia now. So
yeah. Anyway, kind of the jury's still out on this one. I think this is one of those important kind of leading indicator type stories that you got to just keep an eye on. These types of, you don't have to be super vigilant on this kind of stuff. But at the same time, if you know that something like this is happening, you can Google Cambodia or Thailand or Cambodia border or something like that, and get updates via the news. Just knowing that there is something going on in these areas a lot of times is all you need to be able to find the news. Going on X, honestly, X is where I found out mostly about this. Once I found out about it and read through several posts on X, I went and found the Bloomberg article, which, if I'm honest, only had a little more than what was on X. But just knowing about these wars, kind of gives you the ability to then search out more information. And what you see here are just, supply trucks taking soldiers towards the border, right? Something happens and you got to reinforce the border. Like I said, I don't think this means much in the bigger scheme, but ultimately, I think it's all about getting backup in the area just in case. Any input, Watcher?
Just tip of the hat to whoever asked if they were Chinese or Japanese. Very funny. Southeast Asia, quite often feels like something that can be written off because it's a lot of small countries that don't feel like they have a lot of effect on us, but it is very relevant to us as it pertains to the two major power players the U.S. is going to have to contend with as we become a multipolar state, being China and India. This is kind of their home front, and anything that happens there does affect both of them and affects border relations between the two. So
that's
Gentlemen, let's move to our next story. French anarchists claim responsibility for blackouts, which have left 160,000 people in the dark.
By anarchists, they mean Antifa. Let's not let them control land.
That's right. I mean, let's be honest. Antifa does have a little more of an anarchist bent versus a communist bent in Europe. But that being said, the original Antifa from Europe is absolutely a communist entity.
No, I'm sorry. I have to. If we're gonna play semantic games, we're gonna play semantic games. They're not anarchists. Their version of anarchy requires a state in order to enforce it. They're not anarchists. They're literally just fascists.
That's true.
Well, I mean, I guess my point is to say they're the exact same as our Antifa is selling our Antifa a little short. Our Antifa is a special type of retarded, and these are just a European type of retarded. Maybe Antifa with Antifa, American Antifa with more steps, more statism, I guess you could say.
Do you know what they call an Antifa retard in France?
What's that?
A retard with cheese. Sorry,
retard with cheese.
That
was so. You guys have been aware of the AI babies things that have been shared all over X last couple weeks. Yes. Yeah. So one of my favorite was literally the baby version of the Royale with cheese scene. I thought that
was pretty good.
Just see a baby say, "I don't know. I didn't go to Burger King." What'd they call a Whopper? I don't know. They didn't go to Burger King. All right.
Entertained.
There was a point at which in my life when I probably had 50% of that movie just memorized. All right. 2 French anarchist groups claimed responsibility for a massive power cut that left more than 160,000 in Nice and the Cannes Film Festival in darkness over the weekend. For 5 hours on Saturday, the power was cut across the south of France, leaving vital services like ATMs and traffic lights in a completely unusable state. A day after the outage, with local officials said was caused by a suspected arson attack near a substation and the vandalism on an electric pylon, 2 self-proclaimed bands of anarchists said that they were behind the attacks. In an anonymous letter published on Sunday, groups reportedly wrote the aims of the action was not only to disrupt the festival, but also to deprive all industrial establishments of electricity. We're not on a film set, but cut seems to sum up the desire to turn off this deadly system, they added. Let's see, a public prosecutor in France said that over the weekend that 3 of the 4 pillars of a pylon carrying the power line were sawn off in a malicious act. Electrical engineers were forced to cut power to the region for several hours, leaving 160,000 without electricity. A day later, a fire hit a nearby transformer in Nice, knocking out power for 45,000 homes.
There's a quick point here.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Cannes Film Festival was probably highly sympathetic to their cause. This is one more example of the left eating their own, right? Mm-hmm. Things can be leftist, but not leftist enough. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, that's just it, right? If you're not in their kind of club, then you're not part of the solution, right? You've got a lot of American left that have, sympathy for Antifa, or whatever. But the fact that they aren't out there protesting with them means they're essentially as big an enemy and as big a target as anybody else. There is no loyalty in the radical left. Spanish Association of Electrical Energy Companies, which has criticized the inquiry of the blackouts cause, has now said it was not the country's generators that failed to deliver power, but rather it was the grid that failed to manage it and shut down automatically. Did I miss a section? I think I did. Yes, I did.
Tomato.
Europe's power infrastructure seems to have flaws exposed in recent weeks. Over the weekend, it was suggested that Spanish authorities were experimenting with how far they could push the reliance on renewable energy, i.e., you can't rely on renewable energy. But of course, they said, "Oh, it's not the power generation of the problem; it's other things, right? It's transmission that can't do it." Yeah, this is what happens when you basically sell your own base load down the river for some sort of crusade against a vague problem that may be something 25 years from now. Then, so let's go ahead and smash our own kind of present in order to sacrifice it for some fictional future. Joe, we talked about this on what was it? Monday or Friday? We talked. Or no, it wasn't Friday because anyway, I think it was Monday. We talked about this.
Oh, maybe.
And or maybe it was on X where we were talking about it. But anyway, the point is that you and I both called this before it was even identified as an attack. We're like, oh yeah, there's Antifa going at it again. This is exactly the kind of thing that they would, these asymmetric attacks on weak points, high density or low density targets within the network that are just there's too many of them to guard.
Absolutely. This was the least predictable attack ever. I mean, it was pretty simple. Everyone, the least
Most
hard
predictable.
is what I meant.
Oh
to say.
yeah.
Everyone knew this was them the minute it happened. And it's something that they've tried to do in America. And the Metcalf attack was a proof of concept. Basically, if you can overheat a transformer, you can bring the grid down in localized or on a larger scale if you bring down more than one. So the tactic has been discussed thoroughly on the It's Going Down website. And in fact, less than a month ago, that website called for more sabotage against infrastructure. And here we are seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, so this is how they create the maximum amount of disruption and the maximum number of people. And Joe, how many of the people affected, these 160,000, were probably supporters of the people who did this beforehand, right?
Yeah,
that's the great thing.
Pretty big.
Yeah,
number.
that's the great thing about these limousine liberals. They're literally kind of whistling past the graveyard until the beast that they've brought up in their own ranks strikes them first before it strikes people like us. I mean, this is why you see, areas of black communities, areas in liberal cities were the ones that got caught fire, during the Summer of Love, right? They didn't go after conservative areas because you'd get shot doing that.
Right.
Watcher, you got a take on this?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Weirdly, I kind of want to countermand something that you said in the beginning there. We said that that these are Euro Antifa and therefore less violent. I actually, so the German cell is actually probably a lot more violent than American Antifa, but that is probably because they're a lot more emboldened. They are essentially over there. They're a semi-official extension of the state. So obviously they get a lot more protection. In France, I would suspect that it's roughly the same. Like, do these people ever really get any real prison sentences for any of this?
The thing about German Antifa is they of all the Antifas, they're the one that have the longest continuity and the longest history of being supported in their actions by both the populace and the establishment. Yeah. Antifa grew up in Germany. That's where it was originally started in the 1930s.
Yeah, and the from what I remember, at least back during the 2020 era, the French Antifa definitely. I mean, all of them do this because they're retards and they can't be original in any way. But the French Antifa tried to draw their lineage back to the French Resistance. So,
yeah. All right. If there's nothing else, let's move on to our next odds and ends. Now, Joe, this one, this is one that kind of, I guess I won't say that this was not on my bingo card, but at the same time, I don't know how likely this is going to be. I heard an interesting comment that Galani in Syria is essentially Turkey's boy, right? It's like, and he goes where they want him, right? He starts out in Al-Qaeda, then he goes to the ISIS, because we know ISIS was getting all kinds of funding through Turkey. They sold all of their bootleg gas and oil products through Turkey. And then when ISIS became a liability, then Galani was off to HTS. And he conveniently is able to find himself in leadership positions in all of these. And now that HTS, Al-Qaeda, just read it. Just every time I say HTS, just assume I'm saying Al-Qaeda.
Right, because you are.
Well, it's just branding, right? It's like saying, oh, well, it's a Coke product, but it's not the branded Coke, right? And the money still goes to the same place. Anyway, HTS, which is the rebranding of Al-Qaeda in Syria to be able to get American money, oddly enough, was heavily funded by Turkey, and Galani is eventually found himself there. And now Galani is the president of Syria. And, do I think this is going to work out? No, I think Syria is going to fall apart. That being said, if in order for Syria not to fall apart, this is the kind of news story that I'm going to expect to see if Galani is serious about, let's be honest, the grift. I think he's in it for the grift, and he's in it to stabilize Turkey's southern flank is what he's doing. And I think Erdogan is serious about securing the southern flank. And the reason I believe that is to be the case, Joe, is because they actually made a deal with PKK, the group that I thought that they would just fight until extermination. So that to me tells me that Erdogan is serious about securing his southern flank, and thus so he could have better influence within Syria. And I think Galani is part of that. Oh, and by the way, the reason why we call him Galani is because that's the name he was known as a terrorist.
His actual name, yeah.
Right. He's the artist, the terrorist formerly known as Al Galani. Let me read this one here. This is what is this? Reuters. This is a Reuters story exclusive. Syria and Israel in direct talks focused on security, sources say. Israel and Syria are in direct contact and have in recent weeks held face-to-face meetings aimed at calming tensions and preventing conflict in the border region between the two longtime foes. 5 people familiar with the matter said the contacts make a significant development in ties between the states that have been on opposite sides in the conflict in the Middle East for decades. And the U.S. encourages the new Islamist rulers in Damascus to establish relations with Israel, and Israel eases its bombardment of Syria. They also built on back channels via intermediaries since Islamist rebels HTS toppled Bashar al-Assad, said 2 Syrian and 2 Western sources, as well as a regional intelligence source with the matter. The sources spoke on the condition of anonymity because the sensitivity of the subject for the 2 nations with no official ties and a history of enmity. The direct talks and their scope have not been previously reported. On the Syrian side, the sources said the contacts have been led by senior security official who was appointed governor of the province, which borders Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. After the fall of Assad earlier the week, he was put in charge of security of the southern province of Sawida, home of Syria's Druze minority. Reporters could not determine who participated on Israel's side, though 2 sources said they were security officials. 3 of the sources said that there have been several rounds of in-person meetings in the border region, including territory controlled by Israel. Israel's foreign ministry and Syrian officials did not immediately respond to requests for comments. Earlier this month, Galani confirmed indirect talks with Israel, and he said that there were aimed at calming tensions, a striking admission that followed a Reuters report that UAE was mediating such talks. Now, Joe, this doesn't surprise me. And this supports the evidence of my opinion that Galani and the powers behind Galani, not necessarily Galani, because he's good with terror. He's blowing up kids, women, children, innocent people, no problem. Killing Christians, I'm down for the cause. But ultimately, this is kind of a new gig for him. It's not to say he's not down for this cause too. I think it's a matter of who's paying him. He's basically a psychopath or a sociopath that does what he's told by whoever his paymasters is, and be that Turkey, or be that UAE or Qatar or whatever place in the Gulf that his instructions come from. Joe, I mean, this kind, but like I said, I think this supports my opinion that I think that that they're looking to kind of change up the script and to stabilize that region. But you and I both know that this is just one of the potential conflicts in that country of many potential conflicts. So they got a long road to hoe if stabilization is really the game here.
I think so. I think that again, we have to remember, I say this every time, but it's worth repeating. They only control about a quarter of the territory. Sure, there are other groups that are willing to work with them, but they have signed no formal agreements with anyone yet. So if Galani can secure one area and one threat, he can move on to the next. His biggest threat right now is both Turkey and Israel. If the two of them decided he didn't exist anymore, he would not exist anymore. So he's trying to secure agreements as best he can. Turkey is his most likely ally at this point.
Yeah, you know, the other thing too there, Joe, is both Turkey and Israel, I would say, are the two most rational potential hostile forces. So if you can kind of secure those ceasefires or whatever, then that allows you to, you know, put maybe a little more pressure on the Alawite minority that continues to blow up, you know, insurgent style attacks in Latakia region. And then you've got the Kurds out west, and you still have ISIS remnants out in the desert. You've got
the United States.
Right. The good news for us is, you know, they have said that they're going to be pulling some of the U.S. forces out.
Yeah, but they said it the last time too, and it didn't.
I know. I'm just reiterating that's something new under the current administration has said that. So I'll believe it when I see it. But the good news for the U.S. guys is they don't have direct contact with the Syrians. They're kind of embedded deeper within the Kurdish region, though there is a Syrian base. Did you know, Joe, there's a Syrian base, like literally like an island in the middle of the Kurdish region? And that's where the U.S. mostly have their interaction with the Russians. Most people don't realize that's the case. So, but I guess there's an air base there, and that's how they've kept it supplied and whatnot. And it has been kind of a tacit truce around that base. So, believe it or not, the Syrians and the Kurds, you know, and when I say the Syrians, I meant the Bashar al-Assad Syrians. They were pretty good with not shooting at each other, you know, for the last, let's call it the last 8 or 9 years. It was mostly ISIS that was causing the problem there.
I'm going to say something controversial and unpopular here, but Russia has a better legal basis for its occupation of the Donbass and Crimea than we do of Syria.
Oh, that's 100%. I mean, at least they used to control that area. You know, they've got that legitimate casus belli of a claim to the area. Whereas
they were also invited in by the elected governments of those areas,
of those local areas. That's exactly right. Now you could argue, oh well, there was a lot of soft power stuff going on, but that's everybody's right to do that kind of thing. You know, information is not illegal. It may be a weapon, but it's not legal. It's not illegal. So anyway, I thought this is pretty. I thought this is pretty telling. I think this is an indicator that this area is on a good path. You know, relatively speaking, I think the Kurds will be able to make a deal with this guy as long as he doesn't demand full control of their region. If he gives them some basic autonomy, I think he'll be able to make a deal with them. The key thing is he has to keep his murderous tendencies that he picked up as a all the basic tendencies that he picked up as a terrorist. So Chat, you guys crack me up.
If he could just keep the faggotry to a minimum. I couldn't resist. I could not resist.
I mean, no lies detected. Penis Shays helicopters. Scott, Reuters, Bloomberg. What's up with all the biased, compromised, and corrupt global sources? I get my information where I find it, and I know the bias of which I report, and so do you. And so, what would be chilling is if I didn't tell you where I get these sources from. I mean, I just read it.
What's the alternative? The Hal Turner Show and Alex Jones?
Well,
one is fact, or one is biased in one direction, and one is biased in the other. Everything has a bias. We're going to take sources from everywhere, and we try to bring you the things in the middle. Kind of the entire point of this show.
Yeah. Well, so I'll be honest with you. Reading this story, specifically this Reuters story, this is a pretty fair telling of what's happening. Like, there's not like the dastardly Israelis met with the heroes of the Syrian people. There's none of that language in here. The biases are at a minimum, but but it's always the op-eds, right, where they really start to develop, and it may take some time for bias to work its way into these. Because let's be honest,
that's why we reveal our sources, right?
Yeah.
Hey, this is from Bloomberg, so take it with a grain of salt.
And the Daily Mail, by the way, which
it's pretty accurate, right?
With the Daily Mail story that I used, the Daily Mail is also biased. It just tends to be biased a little bit more on the other direction. So. But yeah, fair cop, I mean, I appreciate you guys holding their feet to the fire on this, and I hope you appreciate our honest defense. Yeah, not everyone understands. No, this is 100% true, and this is why when we read, this is one of the reasons why you Peter Shea, you watch the show. You know that I talk about the biased language in the sources that I use, and I identify biases when it's not as obvious. There's a lot of emotive language that creeps into American journalism specifically, but also BBC and a lot of these other big agenda-based national broadcasters. Nice to see the X chat is alive and well. If you're watching on X, drop something in the chat. We'd love to. I
stopped putting the X chat up because I never saw anyone in it.
I just look at the because it pops up in the StreamYard, so that's where I notice it.
I know, but unlike you, I can't reply on it because I'm not the owner of the account.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting that, And here's the other thing too, is hold on a second. Talk about things to reply to. Mexican Iron Man, our good buddy and not a YouTuber at all. Guys, I'm updating the July calendar to include the following: 1 tequila shot taking contest, 2 tactical piñata targeting course, and of course, 3 big booty Latina campfire runway show. Now, the question is, how many big booty Latinas are you bringing with you at Mexican Iron Man, or are you hoping that Joe has several stashed away in a
First of all, don't ask, don't tell on that topic, and 2, in order to attend the Saturday night bonfire, you must bring 1 BBL with you.
I don't want to tease anything, but I'm just saying. Let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Your favorite hillbilly goat farmer, letting you know I'm listening. Hey, brother, appreciate you, Chris Hubbard. Yeah, we get a little.
How do you know you're our favorite?
Well, I will say that I don't know too many hillbillies that have goats. All the goat farmers I knew are out west. All the hillbillies mostly. It would make sense for people to have goats in the Appalachians because there's not a whole lot of flat ground for grazing. But
One of my neighbors has a whole bunch of goats.
Mexican Ironman says challenge accepted. All right. I'm just saying, like the nature of those campfires changes when you mix the fairer sex in. I'm just saying. But like many things, we don't talk about that. All right, gentlemen. I think I got another one. Yeah. We do have a bonus odds and ends for you. So China gets it in the neck. Bad news for China and their maritime militia on opposite sides of the planet. In the northeastern hemisphere, we have 2 Japanese Coast Guard vessels reportedly ramming a Chinese maritime militia boat that had illegally planted a Chinese flag on a Japanese island in the Senkaku area. The Chinese maritime militia, not only a shadow force, but a reflection of Chinese mindset to fight the conflict without declaring one. They are way worse than Pakistanis in terms of ethics and ROE. They will act naughtily, and then when you spank them, they cry foul. They cry foul louder than anyone you have ever seen. I'll be honest with you, Joe. First of all, I just want to say of these boats, can you pull that picture of these 2 Japanese Coast Guard vessels up? First of all, this is way more aggressive than anything we've seen out of the Filipino Coast Guard. And then if you look at these ships and the stuff that's on these ships, Joe, I think this is a way more kind of capable force than what we see the Philippines putting out in the South China Sea in response to the Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia.
The Japanese radio traffic was intercepted, and it said, "China is asshole."
China is asshole. Yep. So China, ever the whipping boy for militant national fascists everywhere. Argentina basically said, "Hold our beer, Japan." And so they decide, well, we're not just going to bully them around. We're just going to sink them. So this is a video. Argentina did what most countries are too scared to do. They sank a Chinese boat that was stealing their fish. The Chinese trawler was fishing illegally in Argentina's water. Now, if you've been following this issue for a while, you've seen the pictures of the Chinese fishing fleets, not like vessels, but fleets. I mean, literally hundreds of boats. And these aren't small little like shitty little fishing boats. It's boats like this, like these kind of, blue water fishing fleet boats that are absolutely just raking, and they'll troll right along the exclusive economic zone and considerably into it on a regular basis. And it looks like Argentina had enough. Basically, based on the video, the information here in the video, let's see. Argentine Navy sinks Chinese boat after territorial officials said it was fishing illegally in its territorial waters. In a statement, the Argentine Navy said the boat was intercepted off the coast. In the high seas chase, the Coast Guard pursued the vessel. The sailors then shot notes in different parts of the fishing boat, shot holes in different parts of the fishing boat, causing the fishing boat to sink. The Argentine Navy said it had been 15 years since one of its vessels sank a foreign boat in its waters. Of note, they were hell on that ass on the British boats in their waters during the Falkland Islands campaign. They've got history of sinking boats. The offending ship was performing maneuvers designed to force a collision with Argentine Coast Guard vessels. The Chinese government has expressed serious concerns over the incident and appeared to admit that it had been fishing in territorial waters. So that's a rare admission, if true, Joe. But ultimately, on this other side of the world, it's one thing to bully the Philippines. It's literally sitting right on the -9 line. It's another thing altogether to roll on the southwestern hemisphere and try to
Well, the Ecuadorians have had a problem with them too, around a lot of their island possessions and off the coast. Chinese fishing fleets travel the world and do whatever they will. I will point out that the number 2 offender in this entire fishing where you're not supposed to thing is Japan. Japan is well known for fishing for tuna inside the exclusive economic zone of several nations, most notably the U.S. And not on our west coast, on our east coast. So Japan sends ships all around the world doing the exact same thing.
Just not in the same scale that China does.
Not on the same scale, but they do the same thing. We got a $5 for Pinochet that I'd like to address if you want to read it.
Yeah, Pinochet's helicopter. This is over in the Rumble chat. Pinochet's helicopter tours for $5. The other day I was going down the rabbit hole on how China builds their ships for dual purpose. Can you give a quick rundown on the U.S. merchant marines and if they're on par with China?
The answer is no. We are not on par with China. The U.S. merchant marine exists in the idea of the national defense or naval defense readiness fleet, I think it's called. It is a fleet of ships that are built with funding split between the commercial entity that's building the ship and the Department of Defense, with the understanding that that is a reserve ship that can be brought into service of the U.S. Navy in time of war. Merchant marine ships are most generally not armed. They can be mounted with guns in time of war, but generally aren't. China, on the other hand, has been known to secrete weapon systems on a lot of these fishing militia ships. Our U.S. merchant marine is nowhere where it was in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It has fallen off sharply because we feel that the NDRF is not really something worth investing in. We are trying to correct that now, but we are a long way off from China. It takes us a very, very long time to bring a ship from being its keel being laid down to actually being in the water. And China does it in a matter of weeks rather than years. We do it in years.
Yeah.
I will bring up a humorous note and say that North Korea shortcut the process even further by building a ship very, very quickly, putting it in the water, and sinking it all on the same day.
All on the same day.
Actually,
congratulations.
That's the danger, though, with sidebound or side launch, right?
The irony is that
tips.
The irony is it was probably just an error, like a costly mistake, right? It could have even, like I heard somebody on in one of these X threads say that it could have literally been a material failure in one of the the slider dealies or whatever.
Yeah, it's too fast into the water. Also, it could be a matter of wind, right? Yeah. So as much as we like to think we're beyond the days of ships, you see tall, flat surfaces on U.S. Navy ships for a reason. It's because sometimes the wind does help you navigate and move your boat. So,
I think that's a pretty normal. I hate to say it, they don't do a lot of these side things, and they don't have the options to do like floating dry docks like a lot of like more modern countries do. They just don't have the resources. It'll be interesting to see what the knock-on effects of this is. I don't know. I think it's I think it'll be interesting.
Statement. I'm pretty sure they've already killed the harbor master. So.
Yeah, you think for sure. All right, let's. All right, I think we're in the shameless plugging section of the show. Joe, let's talk a little bit about Tactical Wisdom. What's going on with you this week and in the near future?
Well, most importantly, we have the fall schedule up and ready. So you can see all the classes all the way through October, including the Fieldcraft at NC Scouts Place, October 21 through 23, where you can meet Squishy Hunter, who signed up earlier today. So I've got courses spread throughout the summer, mostly right here in Montana, but they are all over. If you're planning on coming out to Shield Field Days, I've got a couple classes that week. The weekend before, we're going to run a class. And then literally the day that the event begins, Brent from Project 223 and I will be running a first aid class right here at the old dining hall. We'll do some hands-on actual exercises, practicing these skills. So check out the training schedule and get out there. If you want signed copies of my books, you can find them there. And if you want T-shirts made by Miss Allie, you can get them there too. So check out tactical-wisdom.com. Heavy focus on the training page, though.
Yeah. Well, Joe, here's my question: when are we going to start seeing, how to, step one, take care of Antifa. Step two, how to dispose of Antifa. That's what I want to see in the next volume of community security. Because let's be honest, when the detritus starts to collect in your neighborhood, you got to have the garbage men come and.
It does, but I'm never going to put those words on paper. I like to stay on this side of the bars.
A little spicy for YouTube, probably. Watchers like, oh my God, shut up, Scott.
if you live where I live and someone dies in the woods for whatever reason, the bears and lions will just take care of it.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's true. You got the nature's garbage men to fix things up for you.
Hard to do soft tissue analysis when there's no soft tissue. Just saying.
Or hard tissue, for that matter. All right. Speaking of hard tissue, let's go into the obligatory brushbeater.store ad. Today, we're exposing the rising threat of Antifa and Trantifa, and we're proud to bring you another ad from our trusted sponsor, the Brushbeater Store, arming you to stay ahead of the chaos. In 2025, Antifa and Trantifa, that's the trans wing of Antifa, are escalating their terror, firebombing Tesla dealerships, assaulting Christians in Seattle concerts, and doxing conservatives with death threats. These radicals are organized and dangerous, using drones and comms to coordinate their attacks. At brushbeater.store, you can fight back with cutting-edge gear. The tiny SA Ultra Spectrum Analyzer scans RF signals to detect enemy drones or surveillance, giving you early warning against their tactics. Their handheld drone detection system, field tested in Ukraine, alerts small teams to incoming Mavic bombers or recon drones, keeping you safe. Pair these with secure radios like the Baofeng, guided by NC Scout's Guerrilla Guide to the Baofeng radio to maintain encrypted comms when the streets turn hostile. Check out brushbeater.store/collection/radios and collection/drone-detection to gear up now. Use our exclusive code CFC10 at checkout for 5% off the Tiny SA, drone detectors, radios, or any other gear like helmets and training courses. Other orders over $100 shipped for free. Visit the brushbeater.store and stay one step ahead. A huge thanks to Matt, owner, for his relentless support. Matt, your dedication to the CFC and our community's strength is unmatched. Thank you, brother. Head over to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and protect yourself from the radical left. Now, let's get on with it. Gentlemen, Trantifa is triggered. Film at 11. Actually, film right now because there's a lot of video that came out of this recent.
Well, can I address one thing before you
go ahead?
Because something happened in the chat while you were gone. Listen, y'all, we're okay with edgy and we're okay with lots of things, but absolute blatant racism and use of words that can't be said on YouTube will not be tolerated because we like our channel and we don't want it nuked by YouTube. Say those things to your friends, not in our chat.
Okay? That's about the only thing that's going to get you ban hammered in the chat. So just fair warning.
Did we just have another historical Italian slurs competition? Is that what's going on?
Back in deep channel lore.
I know that's a deep cut. One's in the chat if you remember the guys sitting on the.
If you translate the word into Italian and say it, it still does. It still counts, right?
It still counts. That's right. That's right.
And then you don't need to explain what said word is. You know, black guy. Shut up.
The sad thing is that guy is such a knowledgeable, he's such a good dude. But man, it's like,
here's the thing: if we didn't know him already, I would have thought he was a complete meme character, right?
I know, right?
Yeah. No, for real.
All right.
And again, I would have let that go if he hadn't then clarified. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we know.
I know exactly what you mean.
All right, I'm just gonna apologize in advance, chat. I'm gonna do my best to work this volume knob on all these videos, but they go from real quiet to real loud. So enjoy that. Headphone warning is what I'm saying.
Touch it. Get off of him! Help him!
Oh my God! Somebody help us!
Oh, okay, I just have to stop. What is? Look at this guy and tell me what you think that video looks like. Just wildly swinging the phone around left to right.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah. So I got a story here on this. So let me just.
I'd like to point out something here. Imagine being so mad that some people are praying and exercising their religion that you feel like you have to attack them. And then being mad at the police. The police in this are required by the Constitution to protect the free exercise thereof. These people want to pray. The police are required to protect them. It says so right in Amendment 1.
Yeah. So
crazy.
The important context, the gentleman in the gray and the bicycle there in the middle that's getting attacked and the cops are trying to protect him is a detransitioned trans man who so no longer just a man now, but formerly trans woman who was coming to attend services.
Note the cafe on that guy.
Yeah. So Antifa terrorists target mother and children in Seattle City Hall rally. In a shocking display of lawlessness, Antifa militants descended upon the Seattle City Hall Tuesday, turning a peaceful rally into a fundamentalist Christian group into a battlefield. The incident, which has been widely condemned, saw a mother and her 2 young children become victims. This is her right there. That's the mother. If I remember correctly, she's got a baby on her back, and then she's got a toddler. The incident, her 2 young children became victims of a targeted aggression by anti-fascist terrorists. The rally, organized by Russell Johnson and Pursuit Northwest, aimed to promote traditional family values and was met with fierce opposition from Antifa, which is known for its violent tactics and disdain for American freedoms. As the woman attempted to access the event with her toddler and baby, she was surrounded by the mob of masked individuals dressed in black who shouted obscenities and physically blocked her path. Eyewitnesses and video footage shared by journalist Cam Higbee on X captured the harrowing scene. The mother, clearly distressed, clutching her baby while trying to protect her toddler from the encroaching crowd. "This is what Democrats do," remarked an Oregon conservative, highlighting the perceived connection between Antifa's actions and broader political ideologies. The situation escalated into a violent melee when police intervened using pepper spray to disperse the crowd. And a journalist who extensively covered Antifa's activities reported that the militants were responsible for the attack, describing the scenes as lawless and noting that multiple injuries amongst both protesters and law enforcement. As you guys know, Andy's account, his account is rife with this kind of stuff. So if you're interested in Trantifa and Antifa, go to Andy Knows X account, and it's full of it. The attack on the mother and the children has sparked outrage amongst patriotic Americans, with many online users decrying the lack of humanity shown by Antifa. These are two toddlers, one incredibly distressed, and the baby is seeking the comfort of its breastfeeding desperately. These people have no humanity left, wrote one ex-user, reflecting a growing sentiment that Antifa poses a clear and present danger to innocent civilians. I'm going to leave it there. By the way, a bias check. This was a very conservatively written article, but it also covers the facts, and you can see the facts based on the video. So in all fairness there. In addition to this mother and the detransitioned person, I don't know if it was a man or a woman. I think it was a woman, wasn't it?
No, it was a gay man.
It was
okay,
always a man.
Okay. Let's see. So this Asian journalist. So let's play the first video of him, because he kind of explains his point of view of what he saw and what was happening.
Well, the whole point. Oh, before we do that, I want to point out something. They want to be accepted for who they are because everyone's different. Yet they fail to accept someone who then leaves their tribe, and they threaten to kill him.
Yeah.
Hi, what's up, Cam?
What happened?
Basically, I was covering this beginning of this rally here outside of City Hall, and 3 Antifa activists started swarming at me. One of the guys grabbed my shoulders. I just cleared the area, and thank God there are tons of officers, and it looks like they just made the arrest. And I got it all on video, of course. Good. And the far left activists are blaming me. Imagine if I didn't have video. If I didn't have video rolling all the time, I could be getting locked up right now. All right, what's up, Cam?
All right, so in the next video actually shows what happened to him.
Stay away, don't come even near me. Don't even come near me. You know what's going on? I'm here to cover it. Not your community.
Why?
Because
what do you mean, why? Say, what are they doing Saturday, dog? What are they doing Saturday, dog? Oh, you don't have time to tell people what's the drink, what's happening.
Hey!
Get the fuck back! Get the fuck back! Hey, police! This guy just fucking insulted somebody. Get down! That guy was hurt by that guy.
He assaulted me!
More than Charles, a fucking liar.
He assaulted me! He assaulted me!
You got it on video.
Step back.
Look at his face.
Push pause real quick. Hey, Joe, one of the things that's different about these guys than the traditional black blockers is that they're actually going unmasked and they don't have black bloc on. So it makes me feel like that it's not just Antifa, but there's also, like he had a rainbow shirt on. So there's clearly some LGBTQ kind of Antifa adjacent folks out there. And that's part of that kind of different tactics, right? They don't just use one tactic, right? They use, this is where during the Summer of Love stuff, they'd have Antifa there, but then they'd have the girls in like from another group, a related group, and they'd be women with like T-shirts and like that are showing that.
They also run counterintelligence ops where they have people not dressed in black wandering around on the outside of the perimeter, which is what happened
pictures.
Here.
Yeah.
That's what caught him. And I want to point out that, as you notice, he popped out a spring steel baton and defended himself with it. 100% legally justified. He was being advanced upon by more than one person who was agitated and violent. You notice he swung it out right in front of the cops and nothing happened to him.
Yeah.
Hey, I know how to use those. So
Joe, I mean, when you're confronted by multiple potential assailants, sometimes you have to be like overly aggressive.
And every state allows you to escalate the level of violence if you are attacked by more than one attacker.
In fear of bodily harm, right? It's not like just like, oh, they're harming me so I can attack back. No, it's like I have justifiable fear that they are going to do something to me that would cause any level of bodily harm. And if it's life, limb, or eyesight, then you can go lethal essentially without them actually doing it first.
Yes, absolutely. You're not required to sustain injury to defend yourself.
Right. Durno's right on the money. Guy with a rainbow shirt committed assault first. You don't have to touch somebody to be assaulting. Yeah. Like I said, it's that fear of bodily harm, right? So, guys, we saw several videos here, and I don't know, maybe watch your play some of the video with no sound or whatever while we talk.
I didn't defend myself.
Joe, a couple things here. I was hoping to get your kind of take on, and then before we kind of talk about this threat, and this is something we've been talking about a lot recently, just from a community security standpoint, what do you see? What did you see here? What are some things that, if you're in a group that is potentially going to take part in something in a contested area like Seattle? I mean, what are some of the measures that they should be looking at doing?
Well, let me first of all say, don't go stupid places at stupid hours where other people are doing stupid things, right? First thing is, don't go there. Second of all is, don't be afraid to go in a pack. Go with another group, have a team, be able to protect each other, and never let these people swarm you and break you off from the crowd like happened here. This is the one city in America where they broke somebody off before and killed them. So you want to make sure that you're not allowed to be separated from the rest of your crew. His mistake here was that he was alone. Shouldn't have been there alone. You need to have other people with you if you go into these places. So,
yeah, good point. In talking about this, both the Christian group and this, essentially. So one of the things that I was under the impression of is that they were, happy to do what they were doing, but ultimately that's not the case necessarily. They were compelled, essentially. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it here, even though you don't want to. Let's see. Dove Omega says, "Morning. What I heard was that the building was approved for a Christian gathering was named after some gay icon. The city itself set the Christian group up for inevitable conflict."
That's 100% true. They had originally asked for a different park across from City Hall. That was denied, and they said that we can't support your event there. Where we can support your event is Cal Anderson Park. So that would normally sound okay, perfectly normal. But then the mayor went on to say, when this exact event happened, that the Christian group asked to do it in Cal Anderson Park, which is false, 100% false.
Random PMW guy 84 for $5 says, if a Christian group is able to have not one but two demonstrations in the heart of Seattle and SPD is actively protecting them instead of giving room to riot to Antifa, is the zeitgeist changing?
Not really.
Ultimately, no.
Not really. When you read the statement from the Seattle PD, they 100% blame the Christians for the event.
I will go. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, they rely on the lie from the mayor's office, and as somebody else pointed out on Twitter, the police officers guild's statement read almost like, "Well, look what that girl was wearing when she went to the bar. What did you think was going to happen?" Sure, they get mad at Antifa in there, but they blame this squarely on the Christians actually wanting to pray in public. So no, it's not changing. They're just legally required to protect the Christians.
Joe, the thing that I was thinking about is that they could make a show of arresting people like this, but then ultimately, if they just release them from prison,
and
release it, then ultimately it's just messaging,
Yeah, 100% of the people arrested are already on the street, most without charge.
Watcher, I know this is something that you've been pretty passionate about.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
This will not be fixed until the governments of those areas are forcibly removed for the treason that they committed during the 2020 era. That's my flat opinion on the statement. Well, what they did and have done is explicitly try to split off and undermine the U.S. government in order to try and install their own little communist factions. There is a rot that is going to have to be debrided out of the Pacific Northwest if we are to ever return to normal life.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if you can ever go back to normal life, once they're able to go that far, right?
You can. It just involves a whole lot of people not being part of our society anymore.
And Rick, those people who got fingerprinted in mugshot, they're on file like 37 times. They literally don't care. Being fingerprinted in mugshot, it does nothing to a person.
Yeah, that only matters if there are people in the Justice Department in that state, because these are state crimes, that are willing to pursue those charges. And they happen to know that top to bottom, there is not.
And Karino's question, arrest, how with no charge? Simple. I can be arrested on a charge, but the police don't charge you. The prosecutor does. So the police can arrest me for something. And if the prosecutor says, no, I'm not charged with anything, I'm let go, it's as if it never happened.
So in response to this event, Dan Bongino tweets, he says, we've asked our team to fully investigate the allegations of targeted violence against religious groups at the Seattle concert. Freedom of religion isn't a suggestion. So I fully co-sign that statement. We'll see what happens. Andy No responds, do you need names? And then of course somebody complains that Andy No is basically like, ratting out the good guys, right? And then, so basically, this is happening over on Blue Sky, right? So, like Blue Sky, I don't know, Joe. I've never actually looked at Blue Sky. I've only seen people
ever in my life.
Yeah. So I just assume it's just a basket of stupidity. But Andy Doe says far left extremists on Blue Sky are angry and afraid that Dan Bongino has said the FBI would look into violent religious targeting of Christian worshipers in Seattle by Antifa Trantifa. I think that is this is a 100% appropriate use of the FBI, because this is basically an abrogation of your federally guaranteed rights as a citizen. If there is ever a thing, I don't think there should be any federal law enforcement, but if there ever were a purpose for federal law enforcement, it would be literally to uphold the rights of the Bill of Rights, right? But that hasn't been the case. There, the fact that not the DEA, but the ATF exists shows that they want to curtail your rights. But anyway, Joe, what do you think about this? Bongino saying they're going to look into.
It's a neat statement, but the First Amendment only applies to the government, so that's why the police had to protect the Christians. But you can't charge an Antifa member with denying someone their First Amendment rights. They can't deny someone their First Amendment rights because they're not the government.
Yeah.
So he can say this all he wants, and it looks great on paper, and it looks like he's taking action, but he can't actually legally charge anyone with violating someone else's First Amendment rights. It's just like free speech. If you want to call me some horrible name and then scream free speech, it doesn't stop me from punching you in the nose at all.
I guess it goes a little further. Andy No's former lawyer, Harmeet Dhillon, the new assistant attorney general for Civil Rights Division, has taken an interest in the Seattle situation. Remember, this is a leftist from Blue Skies speaking. Remember, she has declared that she will be leading a crusade to defend the Christian persecution complex. And when Andy points, she will look. Andy's pointing. Yeah, I mean,
there's questions in the chat about it. And they're saying the only people who can be charged with civil rights violations are government employees.
Right.
That's why Derek Chauvin is in jail for a civil rights violation.
Yeah. There are some other angles they could come at this from. Like, there's the potential. Hear the tone of my voice and understand that I am not hopeful this will actually happen. I'm just saying there are pathways.
At best, they get a hate crime enhancement.
They could come down on them for criminal conspiracy. They absolutely could investigate Antifa as a criminal conspiracy, but notice that they have had 5 months in which to do so, and yeah, and one would suspect that the reason they have not done so is that the proper defense for that would be entrapment.
Hey, I'm going to share a video link with you in the chat. It's similar to one I think you showed, but I don't know that this is the same video that you showed. There are a couple of details that I wanted to call out from this one. Because we were I was talking over the other ones, and we.
This is a different angle.
Yeah, it's a different angle. So there's a couple things in here that, Joe, I want you to give this a good look. I mean, so you've got Antifa types here in the foreground, and then you've got more of the LGBTQ kind of community here. And then you've got in the center, you've got the mom and the kids. Like this guy right here with the mask, with the black hair, that he keeps playing with that giant class ring kind of ring. And he's like making sure it's like literally, I mean, that's one of the things that they've seen them use in the past as basically a single knuckle brass knuckle in previous kind of engagements. It's a way to have a weapon without having a weapon. And this is just pure intimidation. Of course, now you got the one like old lady trying to be the reasonable one, but they're still blocking these people from being able to. And then finally, the police come in and separate. And somehow,
I would point out for no reason in particular that if someone is wearing a helmet and you grab the upper lip of that helmet from behind, it causes a significant amount of damage to the muscles and bone structure of the neck.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, the other side of it is don't feel bad if the guy's got a helmet on. He meant to get into a fight.
To me, someone who shows up at one of these events in a gas mask, goggles, and a helmet, that proves criminal intent.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And for you as a citizen defender, it should up your level of awareness, and you should be able to point to it in court. The guy was obviously there to assault me because he showed up in a helmet and a mask and a gas mask.
So real quick, I want to talk about the connection between the radical kind of Antifa version of the threat that lives out there, the various skin suits that they wear, and their unique targeting of the Christian community. Now, let's be honest. Christians tend to be, one of the few groups that have done a pretty good job of actually standing up against this kind of thing because they see their rights being directly challenged, and they also have something that they inherently believe in. Now, that being said, Antifa is kind of like the beating heart of all these various, organizations. Now they don't make up the majority members of all these organizations, but they're absolutely the action-oriented center. So we've got the BLM is in there. You got pro-Palestine is in there. You've got LGBTQ kind of folks, and so you see the mixture of Antifa, Trantifa, and then the more kind of vanilla LGBTQ type. Some people in that previous video. What are some of the other kind of skin suits that these schmucks wear to kind of?
I don't know what you're referring to by that, but I will say this: the legal observers they put up there generally are not, and they wear these bright green hats as if that somehow gives them magical legal protection. Right. They claim to be security and safety people when that's actually the element that's supposed to assault others. I don't know what you mean by skin suits. So.
That's the sheep's clothing, the wolf in the sheep's clothing. The sheep is the skin that they use to kind of sneak in.
I think they show up as wolves in wolves' clothing.
Well, the black bloc guys, right? But I'm talking about but they merge into these larger groups, to kind of to get some sort of herd immunity from, saying, "Oh, Antifa's not behind this. This is a pro-Palestinian demonstration or something like that." Yeah.
The pro-Palestinian thing. Yeah, you're right. It's just a cover. It really has nothing to do with anything. I find it significant that they were wearing their pro-Palestinian uniforms while involved in this. They got confused. They got the wrong memo that day.
Right.
They accidentally exposed themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Watcher, like I said previously, you've kind of put a lot of energy into this. What do you, when you kind of like classify these schmucks? How do you kind of lay them out?
Kind of the internal way that they seem to organize themselves. Like they don't talk about having a hierarchy to everybody, but they certainly do have a hierarchy. Antifa and the main group of Antifa are your main organizers. That, or at least that is the organization which houses your main group of organizations. From there, you have the Antifa chapters that focus on recruiting trans people specifically, and that's partially because they used to have them mixed throughout the regular chapters, and they still do in some cases, but they tend to try and bottle those people into their own groups because even Antifa finds them insufferable and just absolutely terrible to be around on a regular basis, and so they kind of bottle them up into their own spaces now. Yeah, and then you've got your regular LGBTQ people who, that's why the trans people are pushed so heavily in those spaces. A, because they're disenfranchised and displaced in the first place, but B, they are able to leverage the wider LGBTQ community to try and use as that BLM-like shield that they were using beforehand. So what you've got there is layers. Yeah, you said it yourself. There are a bunch of normies that just think they're out there to protect trans rights and blah blah blah.
Right.
Where it's you've got rev comms at the very top that are driving the whole thing from the main Antifa organization.
Yeah, and so this is not just an Antifa thing. It's kind of like a radical left thing, and it goes back a while. But the whole I think the repertoire of contention, something like that. I can't remember what the term exactly. Anyway, the point is that like sometimes they show up in black bloc, sometimes they show in the kind of the uniform of the protest, i.e., like say LGBTQ stuff, or they've got their pro-Palestine gear on, so that they're identifying with the group. But it goes beyond just the uniform, right? It goes to the types of things. Some are peaceful protests. Some are more aggressive rioting. Some are direct action attacks that are directly targeted either a place or people. They've got the cover groups like we were talking about. And a lot of this, and what is it? The Weather Underground was really some of the early innovators in this kind of left wing.
And a lot of those people who are advising the Antifa cadres. So
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Before we move on, though, I do have something that I'd like to bring up. I said earlier that I feel that the Pacific Northwest needs to be cleansed, and a lot of people took that to mean that I exclusively mean violence. I mean, if it comes to that, sure, I'm not going to back down from that, but I urge you to get more creative. There are many more options. I will remind you of the period during the Cold War when we actually said, okay, you like communism? We're literally removing your U.S. citizenship and sending you to Russia. Have fun with that. There are many many creative options which do not make us into the monsters we seek to remove. Now, if they forced us into that option, fine, great, whatever. But we have a lot of options, and most of them at the moment, honestly, we don't even need to get exotic. We can just throw these fuckers in jail for the crimes they've been committing and continue to commit on a weekly basis.
Like everything else we say, just uphold the laws that we already have on the books, and hey, it probably will take care of itself.
Correct.
All right. Anyway, this is just another in the kind of, I've said it last week. I said it on Monday. We are seeing literally terror attacks on a weekly basis, and this is the kind of the low end of the scale for terror attacks. The idea is for them to intimidate these people to not want to ever come out and publicly profess their faith or take part in any kind of a Christian event. That is the purpose of what you saw in that video with them intimidating that woman. And even more so her children. I mean, it was very brave of her to do this. I also think it was foolish to bring your children into that. Either she was
absolutely inexcusable to bring your children to such an event.
Yeah, either she was totally naive and uninformed, and I could accept that. I mean, that happens in the world. Oh, I didn't realize it was going to be like this. But still, like if you're going to an event that is political, and let's be honest, this Christian event was somewhat political. Even if not overtly political, just a Christian event in a public place in Seattle immediately becomes political. And if you're not aware of your environment in Seattle and what you're dealing with, you need to become better informed. All right, gentlemen, that's all I'm going to say about this. I'm sure we will be talking about this again soon. Of course, we've got the Domestic Friday show coming up. We will probably have domestic and international stuff on that show. And if Antifa continues its stupidity, we will continue to talk about it. Gentlemen, I want to switch topics because rather than heading towards peace, which is what it was looking like about 2 weeks ago, we're kind of going the other way on the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. I think that, we might be getting to an inflection point here where it goes too far in one direction, and essentially Russia and Ukraine are basically just going to say, hey, we're just going to keep going. And, Joe, we've said all along that ultimately Ukraine is the one that loses that fight. Even if America and Europe continue to give it weapons, ammo, and just money to continue to keep up, to prop up Ukraine, eventually it's going to run out of people. And we've already seen those problems going back to last summer. Let's kind of dip our toes into to this area that we haven't really gotten into with any granularity recently. I'm reading, this is the understandingwar.org, the ISW, the Institute for the Study of War. It's generally kind of a globalist leaning, but it's fairly accurate because the unlike the propaganda places, this place literally gives day-to-day updates of the front line, and they cite both Russian and Ukrainian sources. This was despite the fact that I don't agree with the policy agenda of the ISW. From the beginning of the war, I found it to be fairly accurate on its frontline reporting, if not a little potentially day late or skeptical of some Russian claims. Ultimately, once the Russian claims become undeniable, they report them accurately. So I just, we're talking bias in sources. You want to talk about a biased source, guys, this is a biased source that actually gets it right more often than they get it wrong. All right, so the Kremlin is setting conditions to establish a permanent control over the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, suggesting that Russia plans to illegally occupy. See, that's the terminology that I mean that shows their bias. Suggesting that Russia plans to illegally occupy it. No, they should just say suggesting that it will occupy it permanently. And
no one says the same thing about Syria and the U.S.
I know. Nobody says the illegal occupation of the Syrian. There may be some, like the Syria girl on X might say that, but she's a Syria. She was a Bashar partisan. So, let's see. Greenpeace's Ukraine service reported on May 27th that satellite imagery from early February to May shows that Russia has laid 90 kilometers of power lines near the Sea of Azov in occupied Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia oblasts. Greenpeace reported that the new power lines are first observed indicators that Russia is acting upon its long-held plans to connect the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to the Russian power grid. The Russian state nuclear energy operator Rosatom had claimed that on May 21st, the Rosatom had developed a plan to bring ZNPP to full capacity, suggesting that Russia intends to bring the reactors out of their current cold shutdown state. He claimed that in May 2024 to agree with the International Atomic Energy Agency's assessment that restarting the ZNPP was currently impossible, and that the first condition for restarting the ZNPP would be to ensure its security, either with a security guarantee or after Frontline had shifted away from the ZNPP. Donald Trump's 7-point peace proposal to Ukraine included a provision for Ukraine to regain control over ZNPP with U.S. involvement, and proposed European peace plan also contained the provision that Russian officials were repeatedly rejected giving up control of the plant. However, Russian officials have also increased their rhetoric invoking Russia's alleged historic ties into Novorossiya, which Russian officials have defined as control of all eastern and southern Ukraine. Russian occupation authorities have recently called for Russia to control Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, Dnipro River, and Russia is not illegally annexed. The Russian definition of Novorossiya notably includes all the area directly from the ZNPP to the west right bank of the Dnieper River. Russia's efforts to connect the power plant to the Russian power grid suggest that Russia wants to maintain its control. You know, Joe, you remember the battle at this plant that was it was broadcast? Well, it was a firefight. You know, we did have some, like, you know, I think a 30 millimeter. It was about the biggest thing we saw. And it was all directed at the control building that the Ukrainians said that they were not going to fight for it, but apparently a platoon of guys basically didn't get the memo.
They fired with machine guns from the upper floor. Yes.
Right. That's exactly right. And the vehicles returning fire quickly kind of put paid to that defensive strategy, because those buildings are not what you'd call hardened. But that was early on in the war. I distinctly remember us watching all that video and kind of going over that. But that power plant fell pretty quickly. Let's see. I want to skip over a couple of these things. Russian officials are likely
proven that the direct fire you saw hitting the containment vessels was proven to have been Ukrainian direct.
Yeah. You know, and the good news was it was only small arms. So, you know, those containment vessels are designed to shrug off tank fire, much less small armed fire. So, Russian officials are likely leveraging the fact that Russia and Ukraine set no concrete deadlines for the next step of the peace plan in order to delay the process altogether and prolong the war. I think both sides want to parlay this, because Ukraine is hoping to get that much more money infused by its NATO partners, and Russia. Let's be honest,
when you don't have it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, apparently there's some sort of a $50 billion plan being floated around inside of Europe, and then they're also talking about moving up to 4 and 5% GDP for military spending throughout NATO, but you know, where's the money going to come from? Because they can't do deficit spending the way we can, for better or worse. Moving on,
boys. Before we move on, I just have to say we've made it. We've truly made it.
What's that?
InfoWars bots are spamming the InfoWars link in our chat now.
Where at?
On Rumble.
Oh.
I killed it, but it was a little bit like, oh, we usually get like weird dick pill stuff, but InfoWars, yeah, we're moving up in the world.
Yeah,
well, I mean, we only have 84 people watching over Rumble. I'll be honest with you. I think a significant part of our audience is actually decamped to X in recent.
You
months.
may be correct.
Because those X numbers started going up when all the Rumble and YouTube numbers went down. All right. Let's see. Putin continues to orchestrate public engagements to forward the Kremlin's effort to create a militarized Russian society united against the West that supports a prolonged war in Ukraine and possible future conflict with NATO. Yeah, here's the thing, though. Russia does not want any part of an actual war with NATO. It's kind of like, Joe, that's like people saying back in the early 80s that North Korea is trying to have a conflict with South Korea and America. And yet 45 years later, here we sit with no conflict with North Korea and South Korea.
Yeah, but there's eventually going to be a breaking point, right? Nobody wants one, but when we continue to push for one, it's eventually going to happen.
Well, yeah, right. And so one of two things will either happen. Either A, one of our allies will get an itchy trigger finger, and shoot rounds into Russia, and for which Russia will correctly shoot rounds back. And then it starts like that, or it's some sort of a false flag, a Pueblo or some sort of some other kind of what was the one in Vietnam? The
Pueblo was in Vietnam.
Yeah, that was Vietnam. I was thinking there was one in North Korea too.
Is the other one.
Yeah. Let's see. Director General of Russia Land for Opportunities highlighted Putin named 2025 the year of the defender of the fatherland and noted that many Russian service members who are fighting in Ukraine participate in nonprofit programs. Putin spoke during a meeting with an active duty Russian service member who proposed creating additional programs that will allow Russian military personnel to work with the nonprofits so that service members will say that Russia remembers them. Russia is not forgotten. Putin claimed that the Russian government is working to create conditions for the self-realization. You know, what's interesting, Joe, is that we have seen this a militarization. Well, I won't say a militarization, maybe just a growing respect within the greater Russian society and in the military complex of Russia for its service members. Early on, there was very much this kind of like kind of hide the bodies, don't let anybody see the casualties kind of thing going on. But I think that was just part of the kind of the larger corruption you saw within Russia at the time. The war has definitely weeded out a lot of the corrupt and deadwood, essentially, that had kind of collected itself in the upper echelons of now. If Putin wants to have a successful military, figure out a way to get rid of Gerasimov and Shoigu. And I think he might be onto something. That being said, not a supporter of Russia. By the way, Guy Vermectin sends $5. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. No message. Always appreciated. Pinochet's helicopter tours for $2 says Antifa has no fear because they are allowed to operate by the grace of the FBI. They do what they do because the FBI gives just an idea cover. The whole it's Antifa is just an idea, not an actual organization. You guys want to comment on that? Really. I don't know that it's the FBI. I think the FBI is a tool of the people who wanted to do that. Now that FBI is less of a tool, but it's still, as long as it's still has. I know. That's
statement just by Dan to the contrary doesn't change the way that the rank and file operates on a day-to-day basis.
That's the point I wanted to make. Just because the shot callers and the Politburo are gone doesn't mean that
But they're not. The Politburo still exists. The 7th floor is still there. We've only
I was talking about the White House.
Okay, I got you.
The functionaries are the functional middle management is still in the FBI, and it's still as left as it always was. Squishy Hunter, I know, right? Only 18 likes. I mean, because nobody likes us. Gulf of Tonkin, yeah, that's right. Let's see. There was one more thing on here I wanted to talk about. About Russia is basically kind of gearing up for an offensive operation in the spring.
Well, 50,000 troops have steamed into into the Russian region next to Kharkiv. So something's going to happen with them.
Yeah, this is so you and you also have build up. So Watcher, I'm going to go down to the first, not the first map, the second map that you see. Not that one. That one. Yep. All right. So what you have here is so if you remember the Kursk offensive, that went into this area here. We're in the red. That was kind of the area that that Ukraine occupied. But ultimately, it's red now because Russia has seized all that back. And if you look at the line that kind of goes through there, that's the border. And then now the Russian line bulges into Ukraine. And this kind of finger in the middle that's circled with the black and green circle there, that is recent offensive operation. And I think what you're going to see is a kind of a 1-2 punch. Hold on a second. I think the map. I think it's the. Let's see. No, that's not. Oh, yeah. This is it. Okay. So if you go down, Watcher, one more map, two more. It's two more maps. Not that one. The next one, right there. So this is if the Kharkiv piece up in the north is the 1 punch. This is the 2 punch, right? This bulge is the new offensive area heading towards just off the map here is Lyman, and Kupiansk is just south of this area, and it goes into the kind of line of control that we've been focusing on. That has changed a lot within the last year, and that's because Joe, one of the things they don't talk about on the front lines is the fact that they'll talk about a Ukrainian counterattack that takes back a village or something like that. But then they don't talk about the next week, Russia takes that village back and then 3 more villages, and they continue to push
the Russian gains as well. Yes.
Right.
And so slowly and steadily continuing to gain.
So let me this is all right. So this is, they call this Russian subordinate main effort 2, Luhansk Oblast. Russian forces recently advanced in the Kupiansk direction. Assessed Russian advances. Geolocated footage on May 27th indicates that Russian forces recently advanced in Kamyanka, northeast of Kupiansk, near the international border. The additional geolocated footage published on May 27th indicates that Russian forces recently crossed the international border into northwestern Strovika, northeast of Kamyansk, just across the border, and the northwest of the settlement. ISW assesses that Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups likely crossed the border, and it's unlikely if Russian elements maintain enduring positions in the area. So this is that kind of they give them credit, but then they try to kind of sow doubt. But when they don't, when the Ukrainians don't go back into that area, they basically assess that, yes, Russia has in fact taken it. And so this is what we have. And this is an area there's going to be a lot of attention on this area in the coming weeks. If you go down two more maps, you'll see a blowout of the area right there. So Kupiansk, if you see that, that's the top of, there's 3 little kind of projections here. These are all recent. This used to be kind of flat along this area, but now there's these 3 shark teeth projections into the Kharkiv Oblast, and these are the recent offensive operations. So I think these are all setting the conditions for a larger kind of more focused Russian offensive. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the thing that pulls as much as their forces to this area, then allows Russians to push in other areas of this front further to the north. There's been some interest by the Russians around Sumy and just kind of northwest of Kharkiv. So we'll be watching this. I think that we have
offensive to seize Kharkiv is that there is some significant Azov infrastructure there. and Azov facilities there that would sort of prove Russia's point on an international stage, which is why the Ukrainians have defended it so fiercely and why the Russians want to take it at this particular moment.
Yeah. The two areas that Azov has really been now, like the Waffen SS in World War II, the Azov has grown since it was originally just a battalion back in the day. And now it's essentially multiple regimental size elements. And they've been around Donetsk and around Kharkiv are the two areas that the Azov has kind of congregated. And they are considered an elite formation within the Ukrainian military. And they do have a little more of a more fanatical fighter, maybe, and an internal training program, both training and indoctrination. That you don't see with the regular units of the Ukrainian military.
And I lost it. Never mind. Oh, I don't understand why it's so difficult for Western nations to say it as a continued requirement for our financial support. You have to not allow literal Nazis in your regular army.
Yeah.
For some reason, we can't do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's when they see statist, authoritarians, and they're like, "Oh, you're like our brothers." Okay. Enough of ISW. There are a couple other things that I wanted to bring some attention to. So, in response to the attacks on Kiev that we reported the other day, Russia says Trump does not fully understand after criticism of Putin. So there was a very large attack. Is this? Did I get the wrong? No, this is it. This is. They just changed. Okay, they just changed the name. Russia's defense ministry said it downed 296 Ukrainian drones overnight in one of the largest attacks on Moscow. Let's see. Top aide to Russian President Vladimir Putin suggested that Donald Trump is not getting enough information about the Moscow's war on Ukraine after Trump criticized Putin for his apparent reluctance to pursue a peace deal and warned that Kremlin was playing with fire. There's a lot that Trump says. We read it all, track it, but in many ways we come to the conclusion that Trump is not getting enough information about what is really happening in the context of Ukrainian-Russian confrontation. In particular, he is not being informed enough about the massive terrorist attacks that are being carried out by Ukraine against peaceful Russian cities. Trump only knows that countermeasures are taking place. He does not fully understand that we are attacking military institutions or military industrial complexes. The comments came after hundreds of Ukrainian drones crossed into Russian overnight into Wednesday morning, dozens of which targeted Moscow, again caused disruptions in flights in and out of the capital. According to officials, the Russian Defense Ministry said that its forces shot down 296 Ukrainian drones over 12 regions, including the capital, Moscow. Moscow governor said on Telegram that at least 42 drones were downed over the region. Let's see. They reported damage to 3 homes near the towns of Chekhov, around 40 miles south of the capital. Moscow's international airport, one of 4 international airports in the capital, also warned travelers of delays due to flight restrictions. Head of the Counter Disinformation Center operating as part of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council said on Telegram that there were some pretty good hits during Tuesday night's attack. Amongst the targets were the Dubna machine building plant involved in the production of aviation and missiles and drone technology. That's 70 miles north of Moscow. So, Joe, these are some pretty significant targets that they're going after. North of Moscow is, and clearly these are. Russia's tracking these drones now because this is a known kind of pattern of behavior that Ukraine's exhibiting, and they're flying these drones long range from Ukraine into Russian airspace and then onwards to Moscow. This just kind of shows the escalation by Ukraine as the war has gone on, and the capabilities have increased.
And there's a lot of targets north of Moscow and west of Moscow that one will consider strategic assets that Moscow is going to give a much more forceful response to the attack of.
Yeah. And Moscow's doing the same thing. So both of these guys are doing. Nobody's innocent here, right? Innocent.
Well, they're having war. I mean,
right, exactly. They are at war. There are civilian targets that are legitimate military targets. For instance, an air base. If an air base has got military aircraft at it, then it is a legitimate target. Same thing for any civilian factory that makes military equipment. It's kind of like those schools that Russia targeted because they were at the beginning of the war, because they were using the schools as makeshift military supply depots and
and manufacturing facilities.
And manufacturing, yeah.
It's like when they struck the shopping mall. Well, video comes out of the shopping mall being used as a vehicle staging area.
Right.
All kinds of things. Now, on that flip side, in this attack, we didn't see it, but in prior Ukrainian attacks on Moscow, we've seen them just attacking random residential apartment buildings. That's not a valid military target unless you're actually fighting in that city and it's occupied by troops.
Let's see. The intensity of strikes by both sides have only increased since Trump's return to office in January, the president having promised to end Russia's war in 24 hours. Trump called Putin absolutely crazy on Sunday. Social media post said Putin, Tuesday said Putin doesn't realize that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. This is where kind of Trump shows his naivete about the situation in the world. I mean, I appreciate what he does in a lot of areas, but if he doesn't realize the seriousness of, like, these two countries are at war with each other, and you can't always just make, these are emotional, protracted conflicts, and neither side is just going to roll over on this, especially if they don't want to.
Yeah, whoever wrote the other article is playing to Trump's vulnerabilities. Say, well, Trump's not getting fully informed. He doesn't know the whole story. That's inclined to make Trump take some sort of action, because Trump doesn't like to be fooled, right? And if he thinks he's being fooled by someone, he's going to do whatever everyone wants him to do to show he's not being fooled.
Yeah, that was a quote from Putin. He said when he said that. Yeah.
Not smart.
Next story. Former Russian president. Oh yeah, Medvedev comes out and he does it. He does him. Let's see. Former Russian president raises specter of a World War III as rhetoric ramps up over Ukraine. And so this is him playing the role that he's played since the beginning of this war, which is basically Putin gives the middle case.
Yeah, he's the guy who says what Lavrov and Putin can't say, right? Exactly
right. He goes the kind of most dangerous course of action versus most likely course of action, which is what you see from Putin. Let's see. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev raised the specter of World War III on Tuesday as the rhetoric between the White House and Kremlin ramped up. And so it goes on. These are quotes that we've already read from Trump. And then he responds by basically saying, around 3 hours later, Medvedev comes to X writing, "I only know of one really bad thing, World War III. I hope Trump understands this." This in turn drew an almost immediate rebuke from Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who called Medvedev's remarks as reckless. I agree, they are reckless, but there's a point to it. This is literally, an insider that's basically given the worst case scenario from the Russian standpoint. And as long as you understand that that's his role in all this, then you can. Dmitry Peskov appeared to play down the tension. Yeah, because once again, this just shows you've got one guy who goes mad dog and the other guy downplays it and says he doesn't speak for us. Okay, yeah, but he's still saying things. Trust me, if Putin didn't want him to talk publicly, he wouldn't talk publicly.
He wouldn't speak. Yeah, exactly.
The fact that he says something means it's co-signed by Putin. And it doesn't mean that Putin wants World War III. He's just reminding people that, listen, our nuclear stockpile still exists, and it's still the largest in the world. Let's see. Personally, during which he thanked Trump personally for his efforts, but he said at the same time there are a lot of nuance based on national interest, which cannot be sacrificed and which neither side will sacrifice. And Peskov is coming out as the rational person. They're saying, listen, understanding that, we're still far apart, both Ukrainians and us. Let's see. In a speech on Moscow's Red Square in last May, Putin said, "We will not let anybody threaten us. Our strategic forces are always ready to are always at combat readiness." And Joe, we've seen the strategic forces roll out on numerous occasions doing mass drills, readiness drills throughout this war. So that's definitely something they take. Anyway, I just thought this was interesting to see the kind of the difference of styles here between Putin and Peskov and Lavrov and Medvedev, who's definitely kind of playing the red team to the mainline Kremlin. Let's see. Kind of talking about strategic flexibility. Russia, this next story here talks about Russia launches large-scale naval drills in the Baltic Sea. Hey, guys, remember us. Just because you've bottled up our Black Sea fleet doesn't mean that our fleet still isn't capable and able to kind of do blue water action in other parts of the world, i.e. the Baltic Sea. Russia has initiated a large-scale naval exercises in the Baltic Sea, which feature at least 20 ships and 30,000 troops along with air support. The Baltic Fleet of Russia confirmed as cited in Interfax. As part of the exercise, the crews of the fleets will solve anti-submarine tasks in combat training areas, practice defense against unmanned boats, and conduct practice artillery fire at sea and air targets. The Russian military statements indicates that this appears to be a mirroring response to a provocative NATO drills currently happening in Finland near the Russian border. The drills further include frigates, corvettes, small missiles, and anti-submarine ships, as well as minesweepers. Regional media details that there are also air coverage with up to 25 aircraft and helicopters taking part. Joe, this is kind of your neck of the woods. I mean, this is very similar to what we've seen China doing, except for I think Russia's got a little more institutional memory for this type of exercise than China.
Yeah, I think that we have to remember that in the 80s and probably early 90s, Russia was actually a great naval power. They haven't forgotten how. They just didn't have the money to maintain it. And they could dust off an awful lot of ships that are sitting in shipyards and go to sea in a big way if they truly wanted to. They've always had pride in their naval ability. She's always been a naval nation. So their navy may be smaller now than it once was, but it's every bit as capable. And I know everyone likes to joke about that last cruise of their aircraft carrier, but the only reason why it had any troubles is because everyone denied them previous fueling rights they had had. The ship is just as capable as it was. She had just been at sea for a long time without fuel. It's dangerous to laugh at a dangerous animal when it's cornered.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the parts of their triad are still have nuclear equipped bombers, and they still have their boomers that are able to go out to sea. The fast attack subs are still world class, better than anything China's got. Now that may not last forever, but that's definitely the way it is now.
I'm gonna quote the prophet yet again. The entire book, Red Storm Rising, was based upon a simulation. a war game. And in it, the Russian Navy or Soviet Navy at the time beat NATO every single time at sea. That's significant, and it was based on information that was available from both public and non-public sources. I think we all know Tom Clancy had access to info the rest of us don't. So those capabilities haven't actually gone away.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, they definitely had a bigger Navy back then, and it was more of a mass kicks ass kind of strategy, but they still have when they don't have the number of ships, they have to kind of come up with new TTPs that will allow them to continue to be successful.
All those bear bombers and such haven't gone away. They just have lowered the number of operational squadrons. Just like us, they have storage yards full of unused military equipment that simply needs a quick maintenance once over before it could be put into action. Right?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, they've got a very large mothball fleet. I don't know how much it's going to cost or how long it would take in order to bring that back, but it's definitely something that they could make happen quicker. Assuming they're willing to spend the money. All right. Final story. This is just kind of like, in this context of what's going on with Russia and Medvedev talking about World War III, why not bring back Star Wars? Peace through strength. Trump's missile shield would stop war before it starts. Now, I'll be honest. I understand why countries don't like us having a nuclear missile defense shield, because the idea is what happens if it actually works and they can't get nukes through. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't think that we would be able to handle any kind of a large nuclear missile attack, but maybe onesies, twosies, or maybe even a dozen might be on the table, and that would just mean that they would have to shoot twice as many to get them through. But that being said, a lot of great stuff have come through technological innovation, so who knows? President Trump has officially announced plans to build a next-generation missile defense system. He's calling it the Golden Dome, and I, for one, could not be more thrilled. So this is an op-ed, of course. This is from AmericanGreatness.com. Corrine Clark Bannon. I don't know if there's any relation to Steve Bannon. I doubt it. American Greatness, isn't that where Victor David Hansen posts through? I can't remember. Unveiled this week alongside the Defense Secretary Hegseth, the Golden Dome is a $175 billion project aimed at doing something that Biden regime never prioritized, protecting the U.S. homeland from foreign attack. And get this, it's expected to be fully operational by the end of Trump's term. I don't believe that for a second, but hey,
there's a lot of things in this that are beyond belief.
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely. I mean, we got to look at the hyperbole on both sides, right? According to Trump, I like the idea. I don't know how realistic it is. According to Trump, this dome will be able to intercept anything: hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, which is all doable. These are all things that are doable. It's all a question of scale. Even missiles launched from the other side of the world or from space. That's not just national defense. That's next level deterrence. If the ISDS sounds familiar, it's because Ronald Reagan once dreamed of it. It was his strategic defense initiative, mocked by the left as Star Wars, but sounds cool. So why not? Was a bold vision that never got the full support it deserved. Trump is finally making the dream a reality. Well, no, he's done what Reagan did, which is make. I think they actually pay for it in the big beautiful bill. So we'll see. The name of the patriotic play on Israel's Iron Dome, which has saved countless lives. Trump's version, bigger, better, and focused on our homeland. The first $25 billion to fund this project is tucked into Trump's. There we go. Trump's one big beautiful bill. By the way, while I like a lot of the stuff in there, I do not like a single omnibus spending bill.
Doge was going to cut all the spending, and then we said, but I'm going to spend even more.
Right. Well, the irony is that for people who think that Musk is a sycophant for Trump, he basically came out just like what we do, Joe. He disagrees with Trump when Trump doesn't align with his opinion, which is exactly what you want. But at the same time, do I want the suppressors pulled off the NFA? Yes, I do. I'd like the NFA to go away, but I'll start with being able to buy a suppressor like a firearm. The name of this patriotic play on the Iron Dome, that's a lot of money up front, but the long run, it's a great deal because it will inevitably cut down on the need for foreign intervention. For decades, Washington has funneled trillions into foreign wars based on the idea that we have to fight them over there or we'll have to fight them here. The logic has cost us far too many American lives, plagued our economy, demolished public trust in nearly every institution. Predictably, the usual suspects are upset. China says they're seriously concerned and warns the Golden Dome could undermine strategic balance. Yes, absolutely, it would undermine strategic balance, especially with China, who doesn't have a lot of missiles in the first place, and they'll force them to make a lot more. Golden Dome is proof that America first isn't just a slogan, it's a strategy, it's a shield. All right, so what do you guys think of Golden Dome, like the whole bringing back SDI and Star Wars, space and land-based defense against nuclear missiles targeting the U.S.?
I watched the Jetsons when I was growing up.
Where's my damn flying car? That's what I want to know.
Where's my flying car and my robot made?
Yeah.
This is hopium in a dream. It's the defense contractors' glorious plan to make money. It's a great way to milk the federal government for more shekels. I don't think it's ever going to exist. We still cannot successfully intercept a hypersonic missile. And until we can do that, coming up with any sort of a golden dome and proclaiming it will protect us is hopium. It's pure hopium.
I'm gonna back you up one more there. Not only do we not have the capability to intercept a hypersonic missile system, the current interceptor missile system, because remember, we do actually currently have a missile protection system. The current missile protection system has an intercept success ratio on regular intercontinental ballistic missiles.
That's true.
50%. Do you know how many of these interceptor missiles we currently have in stockpile?
I think like 10, right?
42.
Oh,
not
more
many.
And at a 50% hit ratio, you're looking at 20 intercepted targets maximum.
So instead of Russia being able to hit us with the 6,640 something missiles they have, they'll be able to hit us with just under 6,500.
So, and hear me here, though, because those were made in the 70s, right? So is it probably true that we could do a lot better and fix them up now? Yes. Does that mean that we need to bankrupt ourselves and figure out a way to add quadrillion to the national debt chart in order to protect cornfields from ICBMs? No.
Yeah. So just a little on that, Watcher, just to kind of back you up a little bit. The success rate of the ground-based mid-course defense system, or GMD, is based on available test data, is approximately 50 to 55% in intercept tests. Specifically, the system has achieved the successful intercepts of 9 out of 18 tests since 99, yielding a 50% success rate. Some sources, such as the Center for Arms Control and Nonproliferation, report a 55% success rate in highly scripted tests, noting the 3 misses in the last 6 attempts. However, these tests are conducted under controlled conditions, and critics argue that they may not fully reflect real-world scenarios and potentially lowering the effective success rate in actual operational conditions. So probably lower than 50% in real-world conditions. Yeah, Watcher, if ever there was a good reason for the military to buy SpaceX rockets, this is it.
For sure. But here's the other side of this that a lot of people like. There's one of the capabilities here that they're calling for. It is not a physical possibility. You cannot intercept a missile that is dropped right on top of you from space. It's not going to happen. Like, unless you happen to have the interceptors placed directly below it, and you happen to have there's so many things that have to stack up for you to even be able to see something like that. Look, we've done a lot, and they're proposing a lot of cool things. I'm interested that they're coming back into laser technology. I will tell you that the last time they looked into laser technology was not that long ago, and if it's any indication of how far they got into that procedure, even with millions of dollars of government budget, the best they came out with was renderings that looked like they were done in MS Paint to tell us why lasers can't really work, even if you put them on a 747 and fly them near the launch site. You're never going to get close enough.
All right, so this is actually a Marine Bandit, Steve Van Dorn. What about that? Yeah, I figured there was a connection there. Does Aegis have some utility against satellite and ballistic missiles? So the answer is yes. So the two other systems to keep in mind are Aegis, which is they call it Aegis Ashore, which is where they actually have an Aegis system on a land base. And then you also have THAAD, which is Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, which is the high end of the Army's air defense systems. Targets terminal, so i.e. targets that are they've peaked and they're coming down, and as they're re-entering the atmosphere, that's when THAAD would be. Let's see. So you've got go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that, and to clarify something that somebody else
Patriot,
said,
by the way, is in there too.
Yeah, but I think that both THAAD and Aegis both have exoatmospheric kill capabilities. But I want to clarify what that means. That means that they can hit a satellite in a known trajectory. That does not mean they can hit something launched from that satellite at the ground. Those are two very different tasks.
So what you're talking about is fractional orbital bombardment, right?
Yes, which is something that they're calling for defense for in this bill. And
yeah, so the idea, there's a couple pieces to that, right? Identifying a fractional orbital bombardment vehicle, i.e. like the X-37 that we operate, and the Chinese have a copy of it, essentially. Then potentially targeting it before it dropped. See, the way to be successful is to kill the bomber before it drops the bomb, right? Because shooting the bomb out of the sky is hard. That being said, evidently it's on the menu of things they want to do, but ultimately the systems that we have right now can't do that. Now when you factor in ground-based defense, Aegis in all its forms with SM-3 missiles, THAAD and Patriot, you basically get around a 78. What does it say? It's about 75% success rate when you factor all three systems into a given area, right? The problem is that given area is like regional, not like an entire country. So we've got a long way to go on this. Can we do it? Yes, we can do it. It's an engineering problem, and it's also a money problem, and I just don't think we're going to get there in 3 years. So we'll see. I don't know what the full system looks like. I support the idea, but I don't know if we're going to be able to make this happen. I tend to lean on Joe's assessment that this is kind of welfare for the existing systems. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, a lot of these companies are gonna. The only way I would really buy into this and think that it's a serious is if you bring in like Anduril or some of these other kind of alternative new tech startup style defense contractors that look at problems very differently than the cash whores of the military industrial complex. All right. We've gone over time. That's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Gentlemen, that's all I got for today. Let's go around the horn. Joe, we're at hump day. Where do you got the week going? We haven't seen, when we had this intimidation attack, what's the odds on seeing other left-wing terror by the end of the week?
We're going to continue to see an increase in actual left-wing attacks. Let's not forget they've done a couple of vehicle bombings, a couple of actual homicides, and a lot of occupations are starting to pick back up at college campuses. So now that it's summer, the college occupations will probably go away, but we will see a continued increase in street violence. I'm not saying we're going to be seeing the summer of love. We're not going to have riots. We're going to have violence. There's a difference between those two things. And you're going to see more violent people on the street, not necessarily in mass numbers, but more violence.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to see some direct action. I think we're going to see some European style going after the power infrastructure. This is something that we've seen happen. We've seen like kind of trial attacks in the country in recent years. I think we're going to, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see one of these groups go after a power transmission tower somewhere.
We already did. Moore County, North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did they actually bring it down or?
No, they shut down the power in Moore County for 5-6 days.
I would say it was a long time, and it was right before an election.
That's right. I do remember that. Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize that was the transmission tower they went after. I would look to see them try to affect a larger area. If I remember correctly, that was a rural county, wasn't it?
Yeah, Fort Bragg.
Yeah. Fayetteville. Right. So, not Raleigh Durham though, right? I mean, so. I would look for them to take a Raleigh Durham kind of grid down. Is what I would challenge
from a strategic perspective. Bragg was the bigger target than Raleigh.
Ironically, I think Bragg is one of the few military bases that has a microgrid and backup power. Shockingly, so I always wondered why all
6-month period we saw an attempted attack by Ukrainians on Chechens on a
Chechens. Yeah. I remember that. By the way, why the U.S. government doesn't have a microgrid and independent power generation on every military base, I don't understand. But hey, what do I know?
Well,
Watcher?
Yeah, before we sign off, I just have to ask, whatever happened to what's-his-nuts, Chechen warlord? I mean, it seems like he bought that Cybertruck, it got shut off, and then I never heard another word about the man.
Oh, excuse me. Because they don't want you to. He's still in power. He's still doing things.
Gotcha. Huh. Yeah, well, as far as things to look out for ways to fucking secure your own food supply. Do you know any farmers in your area? Do you have a way to get food if the grocery store is empty? Do you are you producing your own food? Some of y'all don't even have any crops right now. I'm gonna repeat my friend Pleb when I say, the hell's wrong with you? Get going, be fruitful, multiply.
Oh, hey, we have some movement on the Kadyrov front. On May 6th, he was announced that he had formally requested to be relieved of his post as the head of Chechnya, citing a desire for a long and indefinite break after nearly 2 decades in power. He later clarified that the only Russian president, Vladimir Putin, could decide his fate, framing himself as Putin's loyal foot soldier. This is not the first time that he's made such remarks, and I guess there's some succession planning going on or whatever. Interesting.
He doesn't have any sons old enough yet, does he?
Yeah, that's right.
So Elon shut off his retirement present to himself. Wow. Jeez.
That's right. Well, I mean, if you don't think that Elon couldn't brick your car, all evidence to the contrary. Time to wake up.
It's not just
I do have to say though,
brick your car.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, honestly, you get people with enough skills mad enough. Regular people can brick your car.
Well, here's more to the government of the United States.
Well, here's my question: is that were there people literally going, Elon, what are you doing? Don't do that. We don't want people to know we can do this.
Probably, but it's man that God damn, we've lived through an interesting couple of years, gentlemen. I'm just thinking about all the weird crap that's happened. That's all brand new attack vectors we've never had to think about.
Oh, and just imagine the way it's going to be, in the upcoming years as AI gets smarter and smarter.
No, or when the CIA takes control of somebody's Cybertruck in order to run over a target in another country. I mean,
running over to say underneath Trump Tower in Las Vegas.
My question is, what's it going to look like when Chinese and American AI start fighting their own war in the cyber realm, and how it bleeds over into the real world?
We have a lot of literature about that. A good example is for those of you who need a little reading. I have no mouth, and I must scream.
Okay. Guys, I don't have any predictions per se, though. I have a prediction that on Friday we will cover more Antifa stuff, I bet, because Antifa will give us a reason to talk about them. And if you want to know what future conflict in America looks like, that's about a good example as any that I can see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's no American future conflict in our future, but unfortunately, time has proven us to be, skeptical people like us who have a tendency to look at the world through conflict and have a tendency to be right. Appreciate everybody in the chat supporting the show. If you guys would just hit the like button, like the number of likes has really gone down in recent months. And it's not that we don't really ask for it that much. I've just noticed it, so maybe if I ask more, people would do it more, but anyway, just give it a consider. If you haven't subscribed, that is free as well. Liking and subscribing to the channel is free, by the way. If you want to support us, there's always the super chats, and many of you guys do that. And we appreciate it. There's also memberships both on YouTube and Rumble. If you want to really support us, though, like I asked in the beginning of the show, get the link from the browser and throw it up into one of your socials and let them know that Future Conflict is bringing you good stuff and telling you stories like the Cambodia, Thailand dust up over the border. You're just not going to see that anywhere else unless they actually get, really fighting. And hell, how many times have you seen Congo, like literally the war in Congo being brought up on any mainstream media? I have not, unless you search for it, because it's never featured anywhere. They like CNN may do a story on it, but it's buried so far down in the feed, nobody ever sees it. So, look at this. Yeah, Cervix Hammer. You're probably right here. Great. Get a great intro song. Too bad that we can't live up to the hype. Who am I to challenge your witticisms? I don't know, but I'm gonna end the show, guys. Thank you very much, chat. You are awesome, Joe Watcher. As always, it's been a pleasure. If you haven't done already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Share the link with your friends, and make sure you come back and join us on Friday, same time, same bat channel. And as always, stay safe.